Let's just focus on to this. The South African Emergency Personnel Union has called on its members to carry firearms to protect themselves. It's in response to a growing number of attacks on paramedics. However, the move's been widely criticized. For more on this, I'm joined via Skype by Adele Christen from Gun-Free South Africa. Adele, a very good morning to you, and thank you very much for joining us. Do you support the call for paramedics to arm themselves?
Well, based on evidence that shows that carrying a firearm increases your risk for injury and death, and as has been reported, that often people are targeted for their weapons. So Gun-Free South Africa does not support the call. However, we are concerned about the increase in the attacks on emergency workers. This is a global phenomenon. We're seeing it happen in other countries. And one of the approaches that's been taken in, for example, in the UK, is a zero-tolerance approach to attacks on emergency workers. And so that might include increasing penalties for people who do attack emergency workers.
Is this not an exception to the rule, though, Adele? Union SAEPO, according to them, there have been 30 attacks on paramedics in the last 6 months of 2018. We know the kind of work that they do and how important it is.
I think it's alarming, and I think it's correct that the union is taking up this issue, but we need to look at the evidence. So I guess to compare to SAPS, we have something like, on average, 7 police officers being killed every month. And so I guess to look at the trade union as a whole is what are police trade unions doing around this issue. The other concern, I know, for police unions is, given the nature of the stressful work, that there's a dramatic increase in suicide and murder-suicide amongst police officers. And given the stressful nature of emergency work, that's one of the risks that arming emergency workers will bring. And so the solution is not arming personnel. They will be targeted for their weapons. The evidence is fairly overwhelming that having a gun increases your risk for being targeted. So we need to be looking at other solutions. And government needs to come to the party. The police unions, the trade federation. This union is a member of SAFTU. SAFTU should be having a discussion as a federation on what are some of the solutions. But arming emergency workers is not the solution. Increasing penalties for attacks on emergency workers, developing a sort of whole of society zero tolerance approach to attacks on emergency workers. Those are some of the potential solutions. And the other, I guess, is more information. We need to understand the context and the circumstances under which they're being attacked. When does it happen? How is it happening? What weapons are the attackers using? So that's gathering information to provide a better evidence base that then informs our interventions.
Adele,
but arming them is not the solution.
Right. What do you say to a paramedic who puts their life on the line on a daily basis and who feel insecure in South Africa and who says, well, I think I have a right to carry a gun? We talk about zero tolerance, but in a country like South Africa, where apparently we are a consequenceless society, what to do?
It's a dilemma, and it's a really important question. So for Gun-Free South Africa, it's not about ignoring the reality. We have a high crime rate. We have something like 56 people killed every single day in our country. And our emergency workers, I would argue, are more at risk given the nature of the work they're doing. Our police are at risk. And so that's the context in which we live. But the evidence shows that having a gun does not increase your safety. It rather increases your risks. So what we're saying at Gun-Free South Africa is that's not the solution. And what we need to do is be getting Health Department, SAPS, the unions together to say, what are some of the interventions that can help reduce the risk? Given the high levels of violence. They will be at risk, but what do you do to reduce the risk? Arming is not a solution.
Adele Kirsten from Gun Free South Africa, we appreciate your time this morning on that all-important subject.